I saw that in some videos they said that Jim couldn't stand the Beatles' music. I don't know if this was true, but I remember reading somewhere that Jim said the Beatles' records were for listening for a while and then putting something else. Jim Morrison didn't necessarily hate the Beatles, but he had a preference for their earlier, rawer work. He appreciated their authenticity during that period. The Beatles' early albums, like Please Please Me, showcased a more uninhibited side of the band, which resonated with Morrison. However, as the Beatles evolved and explored different sonic avenues. And interestingly, during the Doors' European tour, Morrison decided to stay in London for a while. A rumor said that he even attended the recording sessions for The Beatles' Happiness is a Warm Gun. Also in 1969, the Doors participated in the Toronto Peace Festival. John was the opening act for the Doors and praised the band, saying the following: "I had the honor of having been part of an incredible festival with the Doors." After that, Jim Morrison, during the end in Toronto, said that it's been really great to perform with so many illustrious musical geniuses, possibly also thinking of Lennon, because Jim had respect for all the other musicians. The truth is that in this presentation, the Doors overshadowed the other musicians with their great talent. Robbie Krieger said that Jim wanted the Doors to be bigger than the Beatles. Ray Manzarek, in his autobiography, said that he expected the Doors to compete with the Beatles and the Stones. Eventually they did. They even surpassed them with their hit singles. But when the Doors were at the peak of their career, Jim decided to leave everything behind. He never let fame devour him. Didn't care. In the end, he dedicated himself to poetry and anonymity in Paris. Paul was not exempt from strong anecdotes. His wife Linda had done a photo shoot with the Doors in 1967, and from there a strong friendship was sealed between them. This led to the Doors making an offer to McCartney to replace the singer after Jim Morrison's death. But he rejected it, since at that time, he was focused on the musical beginnings of Wings that I read in John Lennon biography, Ray Coleman. That Lennon was intimidated with meeting Morrison and performing before the Doors in Toronto. He was also sick from the heroin and barely said 2 words to Jim. A fan said that John basically thought he was crap as a performer compared to Jim was much smarter than John Lennon. And besides, he was true to his convictions. He lived a simple life. No materialisms. No objects. He lived in a cheap hotel. He never had any possessions. He simply never fought with the Doors. Nor did he let himself be carried away by ego like John did with the Beatles. According to Robbie, Jim never had an ego, nor did he ever fight with the other Doors to see who was better. John Densmore said in his book, "Yeah, I do quote George Harrison when he was talking about his connection to John Lennon after John passed. And he said, if you don't have a connection with someone you really cared about after they crossed over, how are you going to have a connection with Jesus or Allah or whatever?" And I feel pretty connected to Ray and Jim.